An agreement between law enforcement and AT&T meant police must not risk disclosing Hemisphere's use in public or even in court. Telecommunications giant AT&T is selling access to customer data to local law enforcement in secret, new documents released on Monday reveal. The program, called Hemisphere, was previously known only as a partnership between the company and the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, for the purposes of counter-narcotics operations. It accesses the trove of telephone metadata available to AT&T, who control a large proportion of America's landline and cell phone infrastructure. Unlike other providers, who delete their stored metadata after a certain time, AT&T keeps information like call time, duration, and even location data on file for years, with records dating back to 2008. But according to internal company documents revealed Monday by the Daily Beast, Hemisphere is being sold to local police departments and used to investigate everything from murder to Medicaid fraud. Access to Hemisphere costs local police between $100,000 and more than $1 million a year, the documents reveal, and its use requires just an administrative subpoena, a much lower judicial bar than a search warrant because it does not need to be issued by a judge. Until Monday, Hemisphere's use was kept secret from the public, and even from judges, defense attorneys and lawmakers, by an agreement between law enforcement and AT&T, which means police must not risk disclosing its use in public or even in court. This means that police take leads from Hemisphere, but then construct cases around that lead so that the program can be protected from scrutiny, a practice known as parallel construction, according to the Beast. Fletcher Cook, a spokesperson for AT&T, sent The Guardian the same statement they provided the Beast. Like other communications companies, if a government agency seeks customer call records through a subpoena, court order or other mandatory legal process, we are required by law to provide this non-content information, such as the phone numbers and the date and time of calls. Asked for further details, Cook did not respond. The secrecy of Hemisphere echoes that which surrounds the use of the sophisticated surveillance devices known as stingrays, or cell site simulators, which are suitcase-sized devices which work by pretending to be cell phone towers in order to strip metadata and content from phones which connect to them. In 2015, a Guardian investigation revealed that police departments had to sign a non-disclosure agreement with the FBI in order to use stingray devices, which said that police must hide the program's use from defense lawyers and the public, even mandating that they abandon a case if they fear the program's use might be revealed in court. Nate Wessler, a staff attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union's Speech, Privacy and Technology Project, said that, as with the Stingray agreement, what is so disturbing about these documents is the lengths to which the company and law enforcement have gone to keep this secret. The longer these kind of surveillance programs are kept from the public, the harder it is to ensure there are appropriate checks and balances in place, Wessler said. For Wessler, an instructive part of what the documents reveal is that while the program was apparently instigated as part of the war on drugs, this data is being used for run-of-the-mill criminal investigation at a local level. Once law enforcement has access to this kind of data, it becomes a tremendously attractive tool for everything they do.
So that was an article from 2016. Now we'll take a look at an article from November 2023, and then after that we'll take a look at what stingrays are and what that is about. And for anyone who thinks I'm like pro Rick Allen, you're mistaken, because things like this actually makes me feel like he could possibly be guilty, and the reason the information is so weak in the PCA is because of something like this that they can't really tell the public about. And so let's just see what they say.
U.S. government pays AT&T to let cops search Americans' phone records, usually without a warrant. 15. At least get a court order before mining Hemisphere project data, says Senator. A senator has complained that American law enforcement agencies snoop on U.S. citizens and residents, seemingly without regard for the privacy provisions of the Fourth Amendment, under a secret program called the Hemisphere Project that allows police to conduct searches of trillions of phone records. According to Senator Ron Wyden, DOR, these searches, usually, happen without warrants. And after more than a decade of keeping people, lawmakers included, in the dark about Hemisphere, Wyden wants the Justice Department to reveal information about what he called a long-running dragnet surveillance program. I have serious concerns about the legality of this surveillance program, and the materials provided by the DOJ contain troubling information that would justifiably outrage many Americans and other members of Congress, Wyden wrote in a letter PDF to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland. Under Hemisphere, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy (ONDCP) pays telco AT&T to provide all federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies with the ability to request searches of trillions of domestic phone records dating back to at least 1987, plus the 4 billion call records added every day. We are required by law to comply with subpoenas, warrants and court orders from government and law enforcement. AT&T declined to answer any specific questions about Hemisphere, but a spokesperson told the Register, to be clear, any information referred to in Senator Wyden's letter would be compelled by subpoena, warrant, or court order. We defer to the Justice Department, to whom Senator Wyden's letter is addressed, for comment, the AT&T spokesperson said. Like all companies, we are required by law to comply with subpoenas, warrants and court orders from government and law enforcement agencies. According to Wyden, federal and state law enforcement agencies can request a hemisphere search with a subpoena, but many law enforcement agencies can issue these themselves. Additionally, any law enforcement agency across the country can request access to these searches, and they aren't limited to drug-related investigations, according to the Oregon senator. Hemisphere first came to light in a 2013 New York Times report that alleged the scale and longevity of the data storage appears to be unmatched by other government programs, including the NSA's gathering of phone call logs under the Patriot Act. It's not classified, but that doesn't mean the feds want you to see it. Privacy advocates including the Electronic Frontier Foundations have filed Freedom of Information Act and state-level public records lawsuits to learn more about the secret snooping program. Few have made a dent. It appears that the feds are doing everything they can to keep Hemisphere secret. Although the program and its documents are not classified, the Justice Department has marked them as law enforcement sensitive, meaning their disclosure could hurt ongoing investigations. This designation also prevents the documents from being publicly released. Senator Wyden wants the designation removed. Additionally, Hemisphere is not subject to a federal privacy impact assessment due to its funding structure, it's claimed. The White House doesn't directly pay AT&T, instead the ONDCP provides a grant to the Houston High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, which is a partnership between federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. And this partnership, in turn, pays AT&T to operate this surveillance scheme. In Wyden's letter, he quotes a law enforcement official who described Hemisphere as AT&T's super search engine, and Google on steroids. He also cites ONDCP slides and Drug Enforcement Administration (DEA) emails disclosing that AT&T searches records kept by its wholesale division, which carries communications on behalf of other telecom companies and their customers. The feds are, too. Another ONDCP document purportedly states that Hemisphere can be used to identify alternate numbers used by a target, obtain location data and 2 levels of call detail records for one target number. That provision means Hemisphere searches can pull in phone records of everyone who communicated with the target of an investigation. In other words, there's some serious snooping happening. This letter to DOJ comes as Wyden and other lawmakers from both parties, in the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives, have introduced the Government Surveillance Reform Act, which would, among other things, require an independent court order before allowing surveillance of Americans' phone records.
Here, or at one of these, it doesn't matter. This can find you. The common name, Stingray. Technically, a cell site simulator. First developed for military use, it's made its way into local law enforcement. It can track a person down to the room they're in if they have their cell phone on them. Stingrays turn these into homing devices. And that's just the beginning.
These are tracking devices. This is emitting a signal. This is GPS.
Mike Mino with the North Carolina branch of the ACLU has been watching the spread of stingrays for years.
It's my understanding that the software that a lot of these devices use is capable of capturing things like your text messages, the numbers you're calling and receiving calls from.
That guy looks like a throwback from the 80s. Who wears a mustache like that anymore?
I, for one, think everybody should wear a mustache like that every day.
Yeah, this is interesting because this comes from August 2017. So can you imagine the technological advancement in 2022 from back then?
You know for sure they're getting people's location.
Here's how it works. Cell phones are always trying to connect to nearby cell towers. A stingray acts like a cell tower decoy. In what's called a man-in-the-middle attack, it tricks cell phones into thinking it's the nearest cell tower. Phones connect to the stingray, and police can access a range of personal information. But they don't just get intel on one phone. Every phone nearby is forced to divert to the stingray. Calls are passed on to a real cell tower. Data scooped up stays with police.
When you ask them why they're using it, they'll say, well, we're targeting certain individuals. But the nature of the technology is so expansive that you cannot use this without countless innocent people having their data captured as well.
The I-Team has learned at least 3 law enforcement agencies in the Triangle have been using cell site simulators, but they don't like to talk about it, and may not be allowed to. These 2 purchase orders show Raleigh and Durham police bought variations of the Stingray within the last 10 years. Raleigh's...
Well, so what does that say about the Raleigh police and the other police department? They don't care about your privacy. They want to intercept the information that you have on your cell phone, and they want to be in control of that information. Wow.
Purchase order obtained by the I-Team 2 years ago shows the department paid more than $120,000 for the device. Separate documents obtained by the ACLU show Durham spent nearly twice that.
Wow.
In spite of those purchase orders, both departments claimed not to be using one. When the I-Team asked recently, Raleigh says they stopped using theirs because of outdated technology. With the Stingray, though, secrecy is part of the deal.
I mean, there's no way that they spent that much money on that equipment and they're not using it because it's quote-unquote out of date. No way. It's called a software update. But nice try, guys.
Never used it, and it's not being used now. Matter of fact, I think we dumped that. Hey, Barney, didn't we dump that in the dumpster? Yeah, we dumped it in the dumpster. Yeah, well, I believe you. I believe you, police department.
Manufacturer includes a strict non-disclosure clause, not just about the Stingray, but about the agreement itself and its subject matter.
There is such secrecy around this, and I think it's because it's so powerful.
I have a cell site simulator, and we do use it.
Wake Sheriff Donnie Harrison is the only current law enforcement officer we could find here or elsewhere willing to talk even a little about the device and how it's used.
Wow.
It's a very useful tool that we use, not only for the bad guys, but for looking people that are lost, looking people that say they're going to commit suicide.
Oh, yeah, it'll never be.
This one's a tricky one because you don't want to give away your privacy rights and stuff like that. But if a kid was missing and they needed to be found and this was the way to do it, I can't imagine not like doing anything possible to get that kid back.
Abused. It'll never be abused by law enforcement.
Sometimes we have used them for children that's missing that have phones. And basically, that's all I'm going to say about it.
Harrison told us Wake County has had a cell site simulator since 2008. He insists they're always within the law and always get a warrant first. But there's very little public documentation of those warrants or of the use of Stingrays in general here or in any of the cities in which we looked.
But no, we don't like to talk about it. You know, when a general goes in battle, he doesn't give out his battle plans.
Who are you in battle with? Oh, that's right. You're in battle with the people, but they'll use it as justification for having that kind of equipment. We're just doing it to nab the bad guys. And if somebody wants to take their life, you know, we're going to step in and help them. We would never abuse it and just like unleash this on the entire public or anything.
Not to get political or anything, but it almost reminds me of like Israel going and just like bombing everyone with no regard to like children, women, civilians, and being like, well, Hamas is hiding in hospitals or whatever, and like innocent people are gonna get hurt is kind of like not a good justification. But and like we see that officials are not to be trusted with significant power like that. You have to have checks and balances, and that they'll keep this information from the judges and the defense team. Like that doesn't seem like it could be legal, but I could totally see that being something that is at play in this case. And honestly, I wouldn't really like blame investigators for wanting to do that route. But then on the other hand, like if that was the case, then wouldn't it have been solved like forever ago? Plus they're just like technologically like illiterate, and so maybe that's not the case. I don't know. Like honestly, I'm shocked at how like poor that they've done with the evidence. And I pray to God that I'm wrong and that when trial comes, like they'll just fucking knock it out of the park. They'll have so much evidence and I will be like eating my words. I will gladly come on here and be like, I was so wrong. Like I want to be proven wrong, honestly. Like because if not, they just made it even worse by like ruining somebody else's life. So I hope that they do have them. I hope they have all kinds of stuff. Like, actually, I don't even think they have to have all kinds of stuff. If they found, like, child porn on his phone, like, that would sway my decision a lot. Or, like, my opinion a lot. If they have any sort of DNA, if he had pictures from the girls, if he had anything they found in his house like that, I would be like, oh, well, that's that's a whole nother story. But where we're at right now, I just don't have that security within what I see. But like I hope they got it. I hope, and if they do have it, then it doesn't matter what the defense's stories are. I don't know why people get so mad, because if they have it, they have it, and they should be like, you know what, Judge, anytime, anywhere, any place, bring whoever you want out, we got this, you know? And then like the defense can make a fool of themselves. But for anyone that thinks that filing yesterday was like a nail in the defense's coffin, I would very much disagree, because like the way he explains it, he's either using the wrong words, or he doesn't understand what he's saying, or he's purposely being misleading to try to like trick the public, which is what everyone says the defense is doing. But like, don't get shit twisted, both sides are doing it. Okay, thanks for watching, talk to you later, bye.
It's the classic question: safety or privacy? Law enforcement will tell you these things get bad guys off the street and help good people out in the meantime.
Of course they'll tell you that. That's the safety and security of the public will always be the alibi of tyrants. That's how they do. It's necessary. Necessity will always be the plea for every infringement of authority. Every infringement. Good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. What it is, William Pitt the Younger said, necessity will always be the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. It's the argument of tyrants. It's the creed of slaves. The argument of this tyrant is, we're just trying to help people. My gosh, it'll enable us to use the technology to talk somebody down from a bridge who's wanting to end it all. That's all we're doing. We're not going to spy on your private conversations. We're not going to enter your house. We're going to completely respect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. In this case, the Fifth Amendment. Well, maybe there's a vague allusion to the Fifth Amendment right here. Like, if you wanted to keep silent and not divulge any information, well, they're gonna go over that hurdle. They're gonna sidestep that right there. They're gonna like, hey, I have access to all the information on your phone I want because we've invested $226,000 into this system. They're not gonna throw that power away. Once power is accumulated, it's not easily given back. Once a psychopath acquires that power, you're going to have to rip it from his cold, dead hand to get it back away from him.
Critics say we just don't know, and we don't, by design.
As long as we do it lawfully, I don't care what people say. My job is to keep people safe.
No, your job is to protect liberties. Matter of fact, time and time again, what is it? Gonzalez versus Castle Rock and DeShaney versus Winnebago County. The police are under no obligation to keep you safe. They're under no obligation to protect you. Like the Gonzalez versus Castle Rock, Mrs. Gonzalez was trying to put a restraining order on Mr. Gonzalez because she didn't want that psychopath, and that's, loosely using her words, to come near their 3 children. Well, guess what? She got the restraining order. The cops didn't enforce the restraining order. He nabbed the 3 kids, ended their life, drove them to a police station. All their bodies are in the car, and had a shootout with the cops at the police station. In that context, the Supreme Court said that don't expect the cops to be obligated to protect you. That's a lie, what that guy just said. He's supposed to be there to just safeguard liberty, not to keep you safe, but to safeguard liberty. This is the exact opposite of safeguarding liberty. This is stealing liberties. This is stealing anonymity and your personal freedom, your personal right to keep everything private.
This guy is right. And that's why it works so well, is they use fear, or they play on your emotions. And who is it going to say that you'd give up your liberties or your privacy if that would save a kid? But he's totally right. Just like in Uvalde, the cops weren't protecting those kids. They were keeping the parents out. And if you guys aren't going to go in and act, then you should at least let the parents go in and attempt to save their kids. They have more balls than those cops did. So we can't really trust that cops are going to be doing the right thing.
Amazing. This guy right here is, as long as it's lawful. There are a lot of things that are lawful that are anti-liberty. There are a lot of things that are lawful that actually end up harming the public that they say they're there to help. As long as it's lawful, I don't care what people say. Come on.
By design.
As long as we do it lawfully, I don't care what people say. My job is to keep people safe.
the public needs to know more. I think this is something that the courts need to know more about. There are real questions about whether a technology that soaks up innocent people's data can be used constitutionally.
Yeah, let's rely on the courts to protect our constitutionally protected rights. Let's rely on the courts. The courts who basically said, "Hey, you know what, Terry v. Ohio, let's go ahead and make police safety a higher priority than individual liberties," because that's what Terry v. Ohio is. I like how it's boiled down. Basically, it's police officer safety trumps individual rights is what Terry v. Ohio is. We get to stop you. We get to frisk you. We get to suspect if you're engaged in criminal activity with a firearm. So that's it right there. The Stingray, how law enforcement can track your every move. And that was back in 2017, guys. Imagine the technology they have right now. Imagine them setting up a base of operations. You have no idea what they're extracting from your phone right there. That's why it's probably a good idea to have a VPN on your phone. Although I'm not so sure, maybe they can sidestep all that stuff. What a crazy, wicked world we live in.
This guy's right again. I was watching Sleuth Intuition, and something he was saying was kind of like chapping my height. I don't know what it is. Anyways, he was saying that exculpatory evidence is going to be inadmissible evidence, like when the court comes to fruition. And I was thinking, like, that he thinks it's like a nice little slogan or something, like he's got a funny play on words, but he's 100% correct, and it's like a really effed up thing to be saying, because he's right. Like, Judge Gold's just not going to let stuff get in that should be let in, and so we're going to expect these jurors to make a decision based on not all the information, because Judge Gold has that power to not let that stuff in. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's found guilty and they have to go back and appeal it, but who knows? We'll see. I really hope that the prosecutors got this case really in the bag. So all of you who trust the police, I feel like you guys haven't had any encounters with the police, basically, because I feel like maybe that's what happened to Richard Allen, is he trusted the police. He went there to help, because he was trying to do the right thing, and you should not talk to the police. Nothing you can say will help you, but everything will be held against you. So, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.